Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We from Group 10 will explain the material about common pronunciation mistake in English. Before continuing with the material, let me introduce my group member. My group consists of two people. The first is Raditya with NPM number 201063106014A. And the last is I'm Sabila Khoerun Nisa with NPM number 20106310600032. Okay, then let's go straight to the material which will be explained first by Raditya.
Pronunciation. Pronunciation is the way in which a word or a language is spoken. This may refer to generally agreed upon sequences of sounds used in speaking a given word or language in a specific dialect, correct pronunciation, or simply the way a particular individual speaks a word or language. A word can be spoken in different ways by various individuals or groups, depending on many factors, such as the duration of the cultural exposure of their childhood, the location of their current residence, speech or voice disorders, their ethnic group, their social class, or their education. Pronunciation refers to the way in which we make the sound of words. To pronounce words, we push air from our lungs up through our throat and vocal cords, through our mouth, past our tongue and out between our teeth and lips. To change the sound that we are making, we mainly use the muscles of our mouth, tongue and lips to control the shape of our mouth and the flow of air. If we can control the shape of our mouth and the flow of air correctly, then our pronunciation is clearer and other people understand us more easily. When we speak a foreign language, our muscles may not be well developed for that language, and we will find pronunciation more difficult. Pronunciation is the production of a sound system which doesn't interfere with communication either from the speaker or the listener's viewpoint. Pronunciation is the way of uttering a word in an accepted manner. Furthermore, Richard and Smith defined pronunciation as the method of producing certain sounds. Pronunciation in English. According to James, acceptable pronunciation can be understood based on the following basic levels. In level 1, what the speaker is saying is not understandable to people. The speaker uses the wrong sounds when producing English words or use the wrong prosodic features when producing English sentence. Morley said that when a speaker's pronunciation is heavily accented, it can affect the speaker's understanding. In level 3, people understand the speaker and the speaker's English is acceptable to listen to. According to Hinovatis and Bailey, there is a beginning level for pronunciation. If the pronunciation of a speaker falls below this level, he or she will not be able to communicate without paying attention to his or her knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. In level 2, What the speaker is saying can be understandable to people, but the speaker's pronunciation is not acceptable to listen to because he or she has a strange and heavy accent. Harmer emphasized that the main aim of teaching and learning in any language is to enable students to communicate in the target language, and if this is the case, communication is an important term to explain. Communication means to understand and be understood. If we learn a second language in childhood, we learn to speak it fluently and without a foreign accent. If we learn in adulthood, it is very unlikely that we will attain a native accent. In this study, the researchers first review misconceptions about pronunciation, factors affecting the learning of pronunciation, then the the needs of learners and suggestions for teaching pronunciation will be reviewed. Pronunciation has a positive effect on learning a second language, and learners can gain the skills they need for effective communication in English. Common mistake of pronunciation in English. Common mistake of pronunciation in English is always a hot topic among ESL students. Of course, in order to be understood by native speakers, you need to pronounce the words correctly. Even English people make mistakes with their pronunciation. Proper English pronunciation can be a big problem for some ESL learners and more difficult for some students than for others. A student's native language determines, for the most part, the degree of difficulty and the types of difficulties students will have. But despite the differences between countries, there are certain mistakes that are the most common among ESL students all over the world. 1. Pronouncing the th. The th is one of the hardest consonant sounds to pronounce. It can be pronounced in three different ways: as a d, as in this, that, this, those, they, or them, and the voiceless in three, thing, thought, or as t in thigh and times. The pronunciation of the voiceless is especially difficult for some students, often say three instead of three. How to fix it? Go over the difference between the three types of pronunciation. Don't forget to mention that the third one is the less common. As for the difficulty in pronouncing the voiceless, show students how to place their tongues between their teeth and force air out to make the right sound. 2. Pronouncing the schwa. The schwa is a sound that is typical is unstressed syllables. For instance, in long words like memory, chocolate, or shorter ones like the or to. The usual mistake is for students to pronounce the word syllable by syllable. Memory. How to fix it? Remind of the fact that English is a stressed, not a syllabic language, and that unstressed syllables or words in English often have this sound. 3. Confusing the L and the R. The R and L sounds are the stereotypical mistake Japanese students make. They say lice instead of rice, but it's also a difficulty that occurs in other Asian languages. How to fix it? The problem usually lies in the position of the tongue. To eliminate the confusion, first focus on practicing one sound, the R, then the L. In both cases, show them and contrast the position of the tongue and teeth. 4. Pronouncing the short I. The short I or E pronounced the words like live, sit, fit, hit. usually poses a problem and a student may be inclined to pronounce them as live, sit, feed, or hit. How to fix it? Practicing with this confusing word pairs. Live, live. Sit, sit. Feed, feed. Hit, hit, etc. First, say each and ask them if they can hear the difference. Next, repeat each set and have your students repeat. Be sure to either write the words on the board so they can see the difference in spelling or show them words cards. The more practice you give them, the better they will pronounce these words. 5. Confusing the W and the V. This is a typical pronunciation problem in some European nations. Some students have a hard time pronouncing the W sound. Water is pronounced as father, west is pronounced as fast, and so on. How to fix it? If you have students who have a hard time pronouncing the W, show them how to round their mouths into an O and then unround them to produce the right sound. 6. Pronouncing the magic E. Some students may have a hard time noticing the difference between words like not and note, or bit and bite. They may be tempted to split them into syllables, naughty and bitey. How to fix it? Once again, this is a problem that can be fixed by practicing word pairs. Help them notice that not is different from not and that it has the extra E, but it's still not pronounced. The effect of the magic E is that it changes the pronunciation of the word. 7. Pronouncing silent consonants. This is one of the problems encountered the most with native Spanish speakers. They sometimes tend to pronounce consonants that are silent, like the D in Wednesday or the G in foreign. How to fix it? Fixing this problem is as easy as writing down the word on the board and crossing the silent letter out. It's very important for you to not only verbally correct the pronunciation and have them repeat, but also write it down.
Thank you, Raditya. How to pronounce tug, altug, tug. Let's start with some easy ones that everybody in every country gets wrong, and it's the word tug, altug, trog, trolley. All of these words start with two letters, the like the word the, and that's the sound we want to get correct, and then we take it all. Tug, altug, even tug. Also, we have the word trog. It also starts with the example. He walked through the door. He walked through the forest. Throw has the same sound as when you throw a ball. Past tense, he threw the ball. And finally, that word thoroughly again. He thoroughly enjoyed himself, meaning he really enjoyed himself. Silent H in English. If you're going to front an H, imagine you are steaming off a mirror H. Is a voiceless breakdown in the throat. It is made in the mouth or on the lip. Altogether now, Harry has hairy hands. People in England, and particularly in the north of England, dropped their edges. That does not happen all the time, and there are certain words in English where it's possible to drop the H, and we don't pronounce it. Words like honest, honor, air, and hour. There are a number of English words where it's appropriate to drop H's. There are a number of English words where it is appropriate to drop H's. There are other words world and particularly visible in those Mediterranean countries like Italy, France, and Spain, where they have a tendency to drop eaches on words where we should drop them. I don't wish to cause you any harm. It's not I don't wish to cause you any harm. And this wonderfully cute animal, the hedgehog, often you hear hedgehog. It is hedgehog, H, hedgehog. So get that, H sound, hedgehog, and not an exec. So we don't drop those H's. I don't wish you any harm. The hedgehog is a wonderful animal. There's also a tendency to drop the H in hotel. I stayed in a hotel, correct. I stayed in a hotel, wrong. I can hear you properly, correct. I can hear you properly, wrong. The ground is very hard, correct. The ground is very hard, wrong. The mountain was hug, correct. The mountain was hug, wrong. Hello, correct. It is not hello, wrong. The I and EE sound. The I and EE sound are often mistaken by new English speakers. For example, ship and ship. The ship sailed on the ocean. The ship in the violet. This word can, if you're not careful, sound very similar. Where is the ship? Where are the ship? Ship, it's got a short I. We have to have a very certain sharp sound. Like the word IT, it is not it, it's IT. Meanwhile, ship had a long E. Ship like the word it. We all have a mother tongue which functions as a filter for what sound we are able to distinguish. When you learn a foreign language, you have to understand that it uses a different set of sound and different orthographic rules than your mother tongue. EI, the same letter written in a different language might be pronounced differently. What learners often do is that they try to approximate the sound by the honest they are already familiar with and read words as if they were written in their native languages. Here, a list of the most common errors of this type. Ow in English is pronounced as ow in law, not as ow, as in many other languages. For example, auto is pronounced auto, as in autobiography, or autobiography, or autobiography, and autopsy, autopsy, or autopsy. VS at the beginning of word is pronounced just as, such as in psychology or psychology or a pseudonym, pseudonym yuka, pseudonym US. EU, unlike perhaps all other languages. EU in English is pronounced as EU mostly UK or EU mostly US, and sometimes also along. Example include, I include, phonematic, pneumatic, or pneumatic, or neuron, that was the UK variant US. Pronunciation of the letter to decent content. The N at the beginning of a word is pronounced as EZ, phonematic C above, phenomena, pneumonia or pneumonia UK, pneumonia US. KN at the beginning of a word is pronounced as EZ, no, or no, ni, knife, or knife. X at the beginning of a word is pronounced as Z, not as KS. For example, xenophobia, xenophobia or xenophobia, or sena or zina, a functional character. O pronoun as in come. Another common problem is pronunciation of the letter O. It is usually pronounced as O, UK, or OUS in often stresses syllables AG, go, pot, hope, or a UK and a US in closer stresses syllable EG, hot, good, foot. A sound like a in most European languages, a sounds as something between O and I in father. There is, however, also another less common pronunciation of O, namely, for example, the word come is pronounced come, is the same sound as in but. Below are the most common ones if you're not a native speaker. I believe some of them might surprise you. The bold ones are very commonly pronounced wrong. Come, company, dan, dozen, glove, honey, love, money, monkey, mother, Yuki, mother, US. Nothing, other, Yuki, other. Self, countable, Kava, Yuki, cover, US. Front, given, London, Monday, Mount, Mount, Nan, Onion, Oven, and Sam. Good pronunciation should be one of the first things that you learn in English. You can live with an advanced vocabulary. You can use simple words to say what you want to say. You can live with an advanced grammar. You can use simple grammar structure instead. But there is no such thing as simple pronunciation. If you don't have good pronunciation, you have bad pronunciation. Almost all English learners say, I don't need to study pronunciation. I just want to communicate in English. Many of them think that they can communicate in English because they can communicate with their teacher and other students. Do not make this mistake. You have to remember that your teacher has been listening to bad English for years. He or she can understand it much more easily than the average person. Other students are usually from the same country as you. Therefore, they speak English like you and they make the same mistake. So it's easy for them to understand to you. The only truth is go to America or Beijing and try to talk to normal people, a clerk, a supermarket, a bus driver, etc. If they can understand you, then you can say that you can communicate in English and the consequences of bad pronunciation are tragic. Even you use correct grammar, people might simply not understand what you want to say. Unfortunately, many learners ignore pronunciation. They can communicate in class, so they think that they are good enough. After a few years, they go to England or the USA and nobody understands what they are saying. Some people communicate successfully in English but have a strong present action. Although you can understand what they are saying, it is not easy. You have to listen to them really carefully, which takes effort. In addition, some Parisian accents are simply unfun to listen to. A few specific pronunciation tips. Tips 1. Learn to listen to others. The more you listen, the more successful you will be nowadays. There are many opportunities of her native English speech, song, film, TV series, videos on YouTube and other sites, audiobooks, podcasts, etc. Make the most of this unique opportunity, which has become available in the last few years. Tips 2. Text makes perfect even your English level is high. You can lose your phonetic skill if you have too little teach. To avoid it, just do some simple exercise. Read aloud or in a whisper and repeat the words which you find difficult to pronounce. Recite poems or sing song. Observing rhythm and intonation. Speak English to your friend whose English is good or better than yours too, just for fun and prestige. Tips 3. Learning how to pronounce good in certain countries that you not use English such as in Indonesian. Pronunciation is mostly taught only half-heartedly. Like in elementary or middle school, if English is only taught at home or at school. Not a few students like pronunciation material or not if frequently there is something wrong is understanding how to pronounce it. For example, the word how with the proper pronunciation is how and not how. If you are learning pronunciation, you should use learning sources from native speaker directly. For example, by using an English dictionary. Usually, these dictionaries have phonetic symbol, so you just have to follow them. Or by using audio dictionaries and audiobook. Tips 4. Along with along with the development of technology, it is now possible to learn to use pronunciation software. The advantages of learning to use this software is that they usually use audio, image, and text at once. It's great for learning all the new words found in English. In the pronunciation software, the most important things is the audio that is performed directly by the native speaker media as well as the sound source that comes from each letter in the words. You can learn how to mimic or form the mouth when you pronounce certain words. Tips 5. For beginners, learning English is a pretty big problem. Most of them are afraid of being wrong, not confident, afraid of other people's opinions, or fear of being looked at. So they won't start speaking. There are some people who speak all night, but when asked to speak, they feel afraid. And some only study grammar theory. So defeat all your fears. Mistakes are natural when you learn something. If it is honed and practiced more often, of course, the pronunciation you learn will become sharper. With this simple recommendation, your improving self-confidence will help you to cope with difficulties in everyday communication in English more effectively. The better you master pronouncing words and sentences correctly, the better it is, and at least your speech won't be torturing for yourself and funny for others, as in the example below from the recent remake of the film Partner. That's the presentation of material from Group 10 entitled Common Pronunciation Mistake in English, more or less. Please forgive me and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.